Yeah, I can't even, it's on the bottom one.
We'd like to welcome you to this joint meeting of the Provo-Orem Municipal Councils. It's 12:04 p.m. Thursday, July 13th, and we're convened here in the Provo City Center conference room. This meeting is being broadcast live on YouTube, Provo City Council, where it will also be available on demand viewing. Please be aware that the microphones will pick up the noise of paper and other rustling objects. Further, be aware that the microphones can pick up side conversations. I'd like to begin with the roll call.
Cliff Strachan.
Mark C. Strand.
Steve Downs.
Tom McDonald.
David Harding.
Brendan Levy.
Dave Sewell.
Don Weaver.
Richard Brunst.
Kim Santiago.
Jamie Davidson.
Lee Parker.
Thank you. We have an opening prayer that will be offered by Scott.
Our Father in heaven, we thank thee for the opportunity to meet today as a joint council of Provo and Orem cities. We're grateful, Father, for the opportunity we have to serve the residents of our beautiful cities. We pray, Father, that as we consider matters of importance to both cities, that thy Spirit will touch upon us and help us to seek understanding and cooperation in the best tradition of these city councils. We're grateful for the residents that we serve and the input they put into our cities and the support they give us and the trust they put in us to do their work. And we ask for these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I notice on the agenda we have two items scheduled for discussion today, and we have budgeted from 12 to 1 o'clock for this discussion. The question was raised, though, if we were to get done a little bit early, are we set up to go down and see the bus early, or is that be okay with that? Okay, great. All right, well, agenda item number 1 is an update from UTA on the Provo-Orem Transportation Improvement Project. This will be presented by the departments.
So most of you know me, but for those of you who don't, I'm Janelle Robertson. I'm with Utah Transit Authority. I'm the project manager for the Provo-Orem BRT or TRIP project. I have Chris Geiger here. He is the project manager for UVTC, the contractor performing the construction on the project. And in spite of the attempts on his life this morning, he made it over here. And then Andy Neff is there.
Do we know if the person in that car supports here?
We wondered.
I gave the flyer.
He was borrowing a friend's car too, right?
Yeah.
Did you say?
Former friends.
We're lucky nobody was injured, so that's very fortunate. We just wanted this opportunity to give you an update on what's going on with the project. It seems like we have almost every street in Provo and Orem tore up right now, so we wanted to give you a status of where we are with everything. I think this is a good opportunity, so both the cities being here, it's a good opportunity to get feedback from both cities and to hear what the others are experiencing. So feel free, this is meant to be a discussion if you have questions or comments or anything about what's going on. Feel free to interrupt me or Chris. I'm going to start out. I know you guys have probably seen these before, but just wanted to give you some of the pictures of what the stations are proposed to look like in various locations. This is the UVU station. This one's obviously in front of the temple.
What's the timing of the UVU? It looks like it's almost
It's
done.
almost ready.
What's the timing?
So right now, and I was going to get into it a little bit later, but UVU, we're just starting up getting the underground into the platform. So we've got about 2 months worth of doing the platform work, and then the canopies will follow up
So
later.
not till after school starts.
The majority of the road work will be done before school starts. So we'll be off to the side just waiting.
And then we have the one in front of the University Place mall and in front of the library. Just examples of the different stations and the different sizes of them. Oh, yes, it is.
So is that seating or planter boxes that they're
Oh.
taking advantage of?
They are seating, actually.
That is seating?
Yeah. Yeah, these are meant to be the seats. It's kind of the architect's idea of what the mountains look like to them, kind of boulders with the rising peaks. And the cloud, I guess, is supposed to be the canopy. I'm not an architect, but I think they're gonna look really nice. This is just kind of a key milestones. This is our official schedule, is construction being complete by summer of next year. And not an actual opening until 2019, but as you know, we are working very, very hard to do some schedule resequencing and that and see what we can do some overlap of the startup and testing so that we can open by August of 2018 for the school year. We really want to get the students writing at the very first of the year. We think that'll be really beneficial to the success of the project right off. So we are working through that as we speak. We are approximately 35% complete with construction. We received the first of our 25 buses, which you'll get to see today. 70% of the right-of-way that we need to acquire for the project is acquired, or at least we have access to it so that we can do construction. And we have a goal of opening by August of 2018. You guys have any questions about the timing or anything like that?
So if you're opening in August of 2018 and you're operational by 2019, is that first year just tweaking to make sure everything's running properly?
So we have this kind of like startup and testing time frame in here.
The goal is to put all that back.
Yeah, well, our plan is to try to overlap with that with construction that's already complete, do the testing in those areas and that kind of thing so that we can pull the schedule back so that we can actually open in August of 2018.
So now we had a question here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Can you just explain what the testing is, so when I write for the public, because are people writing that while they're testing? or what?
No, so the testing part of it is testing all the new signaling systems, driver training, those types of things that need to go on to make sure that the system is operating flawlessly before we have an opening. And then, some of you are aware, but we also had to do an expansion at our Timpanogos facility in order to maintain a articulated bus. We don't have the facility ability to do that now. So here's just some construction photos from the progress that we've made on the new tire and wash buildings, a new fare collection building. It's kind of an example of what a lift for an articulated bus looks like so that they can maintain the buses in the floor of the building there. Yeah.
Question. Sorry, no. The goal of opening August 2018, do you have any way to put a percentage of what you feel the likelihood of meeting that goal in that meeting?
Nobody really wants to commit to that because we don't have the schedule 100% worked out right now. What would you say, Chris?
I was gonna turn to Mary.
Yes, we all look at each other like, oh,
Nobody knows what I wanted
that
to say. I'm Mary Bellamy Schaefer, I'm the regional general manager at UTA in Untitled County. And we've made a commitment to BYU and UVU that we will provide service in the fall of 2018. So if construction is not complete, we're going to be running the service so that we get students, like Janelle pointed out, once students set their transportation plans, you can't really turn aside those student travel patterns. So we're going to do everything we can to have students have the ability to use, and the rest of the community to use that system in fall of 2018. So that's why Chris is looking at me, because I look at him every day and say, are we on track? So we may not be perfect with everything in place, but we want to have it so that we can run the system so the buses can do it.
Yeah, we may be doing some tidying up, landscaping, that kind of stuff that still might need to be done when we open, but we're working hard to pull back the schedule.
I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. You already know this, but if you have it running, but you're not able to really advertise and let people know that it will be running, that people will be buying their car to take with them to college or whatever, they'll get certain patterns. So if we can say, even if it's not perfect yet, you can rely on this. Then the students can make their plans, and I think that we'll get a much better launch. So I think there's wisdom in that.
So along those lines, from a standpoint of what pre-work do we need to do, publicity, promotion, advertising, I mean, cities obviously can play a big part of that, and obviously what are some of the plans or some of the anticipated strategies for making sure the buses are full as soon as possible?
So we have, as far as a PR perspective goes, we have a whole PR team that works on this project. Stephen Downs participates in our monthly PR meeting, and
it won't work then.
We're kind of transitioning. I mean, we've been trying to get the word out there. We've been attending a lot of events, and Andy will talk to all the events that we've been doing. But yeah, definitely a lot of advertising in the beginning is going to be a big deal. Advertising at the universities, making sure that students at orientation know that it's going to be available to them. We have University Place, we've been using their billboard to promote the Shop On campaign as of right now, so that we're encouraging people to still shop in the cities even though there's construction. And that plan is, slowly transition toward that being this is coming, it'll be open this date, kind of those types of promotional things. But if you have any particular ideas,
Are there some preliminary pricing strategies that bus passes, or are the students, do they get it, is that part of their tuition, or is there some aspect of that? Or
so Mary is working on a pass program with both the universities, right?
UVU has a pass program right now. It's $90 a year, and we're meeting with UVU to talk about what we can do to increase participation, including can we make that price come down? How do we make sure students understand what's available? And how do we make sure we have the right connectivity for students on our overall system? So we're having regular meetings with UVU on that. We're also meeting with BYU to talk about what options they can get in place for their students. So the goal is to have the best package possible for our big student population before BRT opens in 2018, which is going to be the largest ridership group on the system. So all that's in play. On the PR and marketing, one of the things we'd like to do in the next year is start doing tours where people can go on tours up the BRT route, so they get an idea of how it functions and what it looks like, and understand it way before we open.
So, a question on ridership. What is your planned expectation at the opening? Are you thinking that there's going to be a 2 to 3 year ramp up kind of thing? Can you tell us about that?
I know on previous lines, what we typically see is that it takes a few years for people to start using the system regularly and start making it a part of their daily life. As far as how we do projections for that, we do it as an annual average daily ridership, which includes events and all that kind of stuff. So we average it throughout the year, and so.
So is it like 10,000 that you're?
Yeah, it's about 11,000 that we've projected with federal transportation.
So are there going to be any free fare zones or free fare time periods? Initially, there was talk, there's been talk, I don't know if that's rumor or if there were plans to do that.
We don't have any solid plans now. I don't know if you want to speak to what you've been discussing with MAG or.
I think it's still in the mix and it's unknown right now. Mountain Lands has had discussion at the regional planning committee. The mayors have been there and have been a part of that. And they're going to continue that discussion. So I think in the next 3 or 4 months we'll know. They're not going to do that. There were preliminary discussions about having a promotional subsidized fare period of time so that community members would ride it. We just went to on a field trip. I think you've been to, Councilwoman, you've been to Eugene. We went out to Eugene just recently. Eugene is a city very similar to our circumstance. 50% of their ridership on their BRT lines are students. They're 10 years in, they're building their 3rd BRT line, and they did a year of free promotional fare to get people acquainted with it. The thing that's hard to predict on this one is we're the first real BRT system in the state. We have one that we call BRT Light, that goes out to Magna, but it's not at all the kind of system that we're building here in Provo-Orem. So it's a little bit of a new territory for all of us.
In the meetings with the mayors, is there any sort of consensus, or do you feel like the mayors are feeling like that's a good thing to do? I know that the county commission feels, or at least they've expressed
clear.
yeah, that they're not interested in free fair zones, but well, free fair period. But what about the mayors? What's their stance on it?
I defer to the mayor.
I'll be happy to answer that. The answer is yes. We would love to have free fair and see how that works.
What percentage of the mayors do you think feel that way?
Well, at least one.
Two.
Two, okay.
That's all you're willing to speak for?
Well, no, I would speak for most of them. I think all of them actually are in favor of that. But, we have to look at the idea of what the fare box produces and what the difference would be if you had free fare and how long you would do it, or if you would continuously or partially. Certainly, if you had free fare, I think the ridership would go way up. But you'd have to offset that with the fare box loss of revenue. So I'd really like to look at it.
If I can, it's not necessarily directly about BRT, but I think if you look at our system, I know that the rail has a higher recovery of coverage of their operating expenses, but the way that our buses operate, the taxpayers are already subsidizing a vast majority of that. And looking at it from a taxpayer fiscal responsibility point of view, I think UTA, the governments that are served by, or the governments representing people served by UTA should seriously consider if we think that just subsidizing the last 15%, because I believe it's about 85%, would we be getting more value out of the public money that we're investing? A lot of people choose not to ride the bus because of convenience issues, having the exact change necessary. There's even a cost related to collection of fares, and so I think we should at least. I think there should be a conversation. We should consider whether we should cover that last bit, because I agree with the mayor that I think ridership would be much higher if there were fares. And when you look at the public investment that we put into this, we could be getting much more value. We could be getting much more service, much more results from our public investment if we look for ways to improve the convenience. And I think eliminating fares is something that should be considered. I think it's a good thing to start out with, at least start out with having it fare free, and get people to try it and get people to use that, and then I think it's a good conversation to have after that.
Just as a follow-up to that, I think if you do have a free fare period, at least, you might have a lot of people that choose to drive to one location along that route, but then if they just need to bounce over to another couple stores along that route, they might choose that as kind of their interim to get around. So you might be able to have some of that interim traffic pulled off of the roads utilizing that system as well. Whereas if they had to pay, $2 for that ride, they probably just drive there.
One thing I'd like to have UTA consider is looking at the existing bus system, and once BRT is in, should there be some changes on the grid system? So you have feeder lines coming to the BRT. As an example, we have the technology park in Northeast Orem. You come right there. If I were to, good job, Tim. If I were to go, really, if I were to go right there to the bus station and it fed me right into the BRT, then I'd want to use it. So
Mary wants to.
and I've talked to
This
Mary about
wasn't a
that.
setup, really, right?
I know.
All the things I want to talk about. Absolutely, we need to do that if there are costs involved, and that's something that we hope to work with the Regional Planning Committee and the elected officials this fall, begin to look at what would that look like if we made our system more robust. And the short answer is a lot of our routes just need to be cut shorter. Because you don't want to ride a whole long 30-minute route to get your connection to BRT that gets you to the train, or to get you to the train. So we'll look at it together and see what makes sense and doesn't make sense.
One other thought, it seems like a project of this, there's been a lot of publicity about the negative aspects or the thing. And I think, obviously once it's installed, there's going to be an obvious benefit to the rider and the user. And I suspect the benefits to the non-rider and non-user would be also just as important to identify. Maybe that's something, again, where the cities look at, because the BRT is taking traffic off the road, what is the impact on a short commute time or reduced traffic during the rush hour or fewer accidents or whatever might be some key measures. But I think capturing the overall benefits of the whole system, not just the BRT ridership, it could be a positive story to tell.
I think that's absolutely right. I always like to tell people it is not our goal at UTA to get everybody on the bus or on transit. It's to get the right people at the right time going to the right places. We don't serve every need, and that does, I often have people when I talk to a group, they'll say, I'm happy that other people are getting on that so that I can drive. That's right. That's what we're doing. We're making it so that the roads are more accessible to those that transit doesn't work for them. So there is a study that UTA and UDOT, and I believe the cities may be participating, that's took the snapshot analysis of before and then 2 years out, what the analysis is afterwards and what impact is. We want to know what impact it has had on our infrastructure as we drive those where it works for forest transit.
So maybe one thing I could mention in regards to that, certainly a nice example of that is Forest South and Salt Lake and what that's done for the University of Utah. So I believe that their traffic coming up to the university has decreased by 20 or 30% and has opened up more parking spaces because the people around there are taking tracks up to the university instead of driving. So it's made a huge difference around there. And I think that could actually occur here. Certainly we have some BYU students that choose to live in Orem, and we have some UVU students that choose to live in Provo. So this will be a benefit to them as well.
Any other questions or thoughts? Okay. I'll turn it over to Chris to talk about kind of what you guys can expect to see in construction and what progress we've made.
So this is a map you guys probably seen before. Just kind of I'll go into depth on the Parkway and the Avenue at 700 North. But right now, like I said, up at UVU, we've got about another 2 months of work in there getting the platforms done. But the roadway work, we're shooting half done before school starts back up. Down the University Parkway, we're pretty much working between 400 West and Main Street. We just jumped a little bit east of Main Street. And then also, it's kind of working both sides of the road there inside the parking lots. We're still that 30% of right away there. Is more between Main Street and State. Well, really Main Street and 800. So you don't see a lot of activity going on there, and that's the reason for that. The diagonal, I'll get more into it, but bridge work's probably the biggest thing going on down there. And we just set the girders on one of the bridges last night, and we'll set the rest on the other bridge tonight. Not a whole lot of activity going on in this segment. We've got the 4 stations up here that we're getting the platforms reworked on a little bit here. That we'll be firing that up shooting for August. We'll get some work going on in around University Park or around BYU. 700 North, we are majority of our underground is done. There's one Google fiber in there that we've got to get down, but we're working on cutting out the roadway and getting the new roadway section in. And then University Avenue, we've completed some of the work down here from Center Street to about 500 South. On the southbound side, we still have a lot more work to do in there. We're currently down by 400 north and 700 north. Starting to work on that northbound side and get that widening done.
I have a question about the parkway.
Yeah.
The bridge. Why is the southern part of the road higher than the northern part now? What was the reason for setting that?
As far as bridge, it's like maybe a foot. It's
Yeah,
not much.
they're off.
It's just the way it's crowning out there to shed the water off, and then also to keep the vertical clearance underneath for the trail. Is really the only difference. So the barrier will be there. You'll have the 4 lanes on each side.
So where it starts to slope up on one side, there'll be barrier there? Or will it stay like it is now?
Let me see if I can get to that. I think I got a picture that shows it.
While you're on this, there was no parking on the University Avenue in the first block on the west side. Was that you or is that?
That was us. We're doing a little exploratory campaign. Up now.
Okay, so you're not.
Nothing yet.
Okay.
Just a little exploratory.
Get ready for
We found some interesting things under the street there, so.
You know, while you've got that,
Provo-Orem.
I'd like to just mention one thing. I think this is a very unusual project in the fact that we connect 2 front runner stations, connect 2 malls, connect 2 city centers, connect 2 universities. I don't know of anything else in the country like that. And
Miss the J-Dogs.
Miss the J-Dogs. 2 J-Dogs. I think that we'll actually see that this would be, in the future, something of great value to the 2 communities.
So just looking down University Parkway out in Orem right now. There are some dates up here. They're anticipated dates from Main Street on. But right now, big picture, the majority of the work from state west will be done. The winding portions will be done this year. The station, some of the station work in the median will drag out till next year, right around in April, mainly this one. The rest will be done before. And right now, what it's looking like, there's a topping coat of asphalt that we have to put on. And it's got a certain paving window we got to hit. So that work can't start until May next year. So the majority of the widening will be done, but that final top coat won't get done until next year. Down here by the mall, this widening probably won't get finished until next year. So we're playing that one by ear. We've got we don't have anything going on here right now, and hope to start in September, getting some of that widening going. Just some of the photos. So this is UVU. The idea here is we'll get the paving done, the sidewalk in, and we'll be working right over here on the platform. So all that roadway's opened up by the time school starts. And I'll have a picture of the other side of the road, but it's about the same. They're working on getting the drainage in right now on that side. When that's done, they'll get it paved and get the roadway back in order. This is just up on the parkway between 200 West and Main Street, I believe. Close. This is an older picture, but they're in there right now doing sidewalk, and I believe we are coming down through the diagonal. Right now, like I said, the majority of the work is at the bridge. We've got a soil mill wall that we're putting in for the plum tree development area. So that work will be done here in about a month, and we start getting in the more barrier and finish up the paving down through there. There's also a betterment to get these to get some sound walls put in up here. That work should be starting here in about a month and a half if things go well. And then moving down here, you'll see drainage crews that are working between Freedom and University to get that widened.
So part of the road will connect through.
No, all it is it still goes through up above. It doesn't connect to the parkway. So this was just some of the drainage going on between Freedom and University Avenue. This is where the big widening comes out right here to make room for the
Chris,
DOT
can I
lane.
ask a question? From Janelle. The intersection that has gone on for the mix.
Yep.
Is that having to be done before the mix starts any of their, are they waiting for that, or what's the timing for both of those?
They aren't waiting for that. Right now,
So when will that intersection be complete?
when the soil mill wall's done, and I get that paving done in there, then we can open that intersection up with signal. So that's probably at least 2.5, 3 months out still before we open that up. Well, I guess it's not much of a bridge picture, but this is where they set girders last night. Like I said, there's the Provo River Trail that's underneath that we're trying to keep some clearances underneath. So as you keep your profile of the bridge, that's just one of the aesthetics that it does. So jumping over 700 North. Right now, like I said, we've got this, all the underground's done throughout. We've started from 700 East to 300 East. And the goal here is to have all of this paved so that when the school starts back up, we're not there. So we'll get this paved, and then we'll be down from 300 East to University Avenue, making that. This is just part of it. The good thing about it, during this whole time, Questar was able to get their work done, so we worked together, so it's less impactful for everybody. But Questar got all their work done that they needed to in there. And then coming down through the avenue here, this is where we're currently at, over here between 400 and 700. We got cleared up for the parade. Sure, we didn't open up anything we couldn't button up before. So now, once we get this, we ran into a little unexpected situation over here. That's why you got that. A little bit delayed here getting started just because of that. But here pretty soon, you're going to see us down here again on northbound. Starting to do some removals there. There's not a whole lot of work down there, but we're going to keep things moving. So the goal is, once I get all this side done, which right now it's pretty close to the end of the year, a little bit into January right here. That'll open up all that parking along the side, and we'll be in the middle working stations. So that shouldn't be any traffic impacts. So then we'll have the BRT lane there that we're working in, and VP's up there with full movement and parking in the year.
So what are you doing on the sides right now? Is it just putting the lighting in and
So it's a combination. We go through and we demo, we remove the existing light poles, the existing curb and gutter, we push it back a little bit, or we create parking pockets, get all that work done, and then that's really about it. There's a little bit of drainage right now that ties in, but it's not real major work, but it is a little bit of an impact. A lot of driveways to replace, sidewalk to replace. So that was kind of the reason why we're hopscotching it a little bit, so that you could park here and come this way, or you park here and come around, trying to keep it as open as we can. This is just back then in the before the 4th, guys getting the road cleaned up there. So the majority of the storm drain work down the center's done. There's a little bit more, a couple short runs, but we'll capture all that once we get the outside done.
Roads be asphalt or cement?
No, the reason this is asphalt was just for the parade. This is where a planter or the bus stop will be, or the bus station will be. So we didn't want to put concrete in there. We just wanted something temporary.
For the completed project, that will be cement?
Right here is going to be a planter. There'll be curb that comes in here,
Right.
that'll come out.
But in general, along the line where you're,
Everything will be concrete, the way it is right now. Andy, you want to talk PI? Unless you have any construction questions?
Okay, so I'm responsible for public outreach for Utah Valley Transportation Constructors. So I work directly with Chris and his team. I'm full-time on the project. So I've been in this business for about 20 years now. Hands down, this is probably the most challenging public outreach project I've ever worked on, just because because of the distance. It's 10.5 miles long. And also the varied environments that you're working in, from residential to business, dealing, informing commuters. So it's really challenging. And so I'm part of a team that's responsible. UTA and all the project partners have put a lot of resources into public outreach to make sure we're taking care of the residents and informing them what's going on, what benefits will come to them through project completion, and so forth. So this is kind of typical statistics for the last several months since spring hit. We've been really going to town on a lot of these busy roadways through Orem and Provo. So I manage a 24-hour project hotline, hearing from a lot of your constituency on a daily basis, and it's a daily process for me to get out and go and meet with residents and businesses that are going to be affected, that will have their driveways affected, that will be affected by night work, utility service interruptions. There's a lot of impacts, and so that's part of my role, is to help be proactive, get out ahead of that, and so people are informed and we don't catch anybody by surprise. We have a weekly email update. If anybody could help us get up to 667, that would be super awesome. Let's get off the side there.
You beast.
Somebody please subscribe.
Right now, while we're sitting here, please.
Please do. Okay. That'll send good vibes our way. Okay. Facebook, also social media is a key outreach resource for us. We have a Facebook page, Provo-Orem Trip. If you haven't seen that, we're up to almost 1,500 likes on that page. So we use this to post construction updates. For instance, the night work and lane restrictions we're doing along the diagonal tonight. We've done a post on that. Also, we have a weekly video update. One of my colleagues helps us record that every week. We go around to different areas in the project and give 45-second updates on what's happening, new phases that we're opening up, and other interesting facts. We're also using our Facebook page as a community resource for both Orem and Provo. So if you haven't been on there, I think it's probably the best Facebook page I've ever seen. You can find out everything that's going on in Orem and Provo, and we're trying to integrate the community building into that, as well as the construction information. So it's a really great resource. And also we do business profiles. So we do video updates. Bill Knowles works with me. He's our community business ombudsman, and he's been working on this project for, I think, 12 plus years. And so he has really strong relationships with a lot of the businesses. He records bi-weekly updates with kind of video interviews with business owners. And we get a lot of support on our page. We're increasing the likes by having contests and giveaways with those businesses and gift cards that we give away. So that's really great. Individual stakeholder meetings. So that's part of my job, to go out and meet with a business owner. We were out talking to Black Sheep yesterday about that work that we're doing in front of the Provo Town Square there, that exploratory work, and working with 7-Eleven up above to figure out how we're going to phase the construction of their driveway so we can get their fuel trailers in. Those are just some examples of the meetings that we attend, and try to add that personal touch and help resolve issues as quickly as we can. And I know a lot of you have heard from your constituency and forwarded that on to me, so I really appreciate that. I really want you to use me as a resource to help find solutions. You have a lot of things on your plate, everybody does, and that's my role to coordinate with those affected stakeholders and find solutions and get them the information that they need. Flyers, we've done a ton of those. and also neighborhood meetings, small groups that we meet with. We also have been around to different community groups like Rotary clubs, Chamber of Commerce, different neighborhood groups. We're available to come out and give presentations to those groups. And so if there's any in your neighborhood that you would like to have an in-person presentation, please let us know. And then
Question for you on that.
You bet.
What do you cover in a neighborhood meeting? Are you going over the project, how it's funded, what it is, or are you just going over the construction that week?
So yeah, we usually try to understand what questions that these groups have beforehand. For the most part, we do a combination of educating the groups about BRT, what it is, how it operates, and then also provide a construction update. And so it's kind of a combination of those two to educate and inform about construction, upcoming construction. Did that answer your question?
If Andy knows there's a specific interest, he'll invite me or somebody else who has more knowledge of the background of the project.
Right. For
something like
instance,
that.
yeah, last fall we had a lot of interest around the noise issue.
And the way to reach you the best is which way?
Through the project hotline, and I can get you a copy. I've got a contact card I can give to you.
Okay, that'd be good.
Yeah, for instance, last fall, I know that both mayors were kind of involved in this, residents wanting to know more about the noise study that we did and if their area qualified for a noise wall. We had a series of meetings with those to explain the policies that UDOT has and the process that we go through. And I think those were really productive in educating folks. Every week we do social media and media advisories. Try to get that information out to Janelle, and appreciate her as a partner in helping us distribute project information to the wider public. So also as part of our public involvement team, we're scheduling what we call Meet the Contractor events. And so this is a traveling display that we take around. 2 events. I want to point out here in the upper right corner, this is Councilman Lentz. He's a key and integral part of our public involvement team. He
The dunk tank.
was in the dunk tank for charity up at Orem Summerfest. And he was nice enough to let some of the littler customers go up and actually push the square if they couldn't hit it with the ball. So we really appreciate the support that we're getting from you as the cities and in the project.
Thanks for doing that on a hot day.
It got a little windy later. I was up there about 2 hours that afternoon. It got a little nippy, but okay. And so yeah, we raised $166 for the Altogether Playground with Orem City, and you bet. And so we were at Freedom Days. We had a Meet the Contractor specifically for the 700 North community a few weeks ago. And so our goal is to have one of these events in all 7 of our project segments. And we've doubled up and had a couple in others, but we'll be at the Latino Festival over Labor Day weekend. We're working with Missionary Training Center during their open house to have an event there where we have a BRT bus that folks can check out, as well as up at BYU and UVU campus. We'll be planning events there too. Yes.
So this is still a ways out, but for our events next year, both for Summerfest and for Freedom Festival, are you planning to have one of the articulated buses in the parade routes and do like a little walkthrough where kids can go through and okay.
We were hoping to do this summer, we just didn't get our bus in time. You bet.
The timing would probably work out. I mean, if you're going to get that August goal, that would be perfect prime time to work out. Great.
I think one of the key things to note on this is I've personally been at a few of these events, and we usually only hear all the bad, negative about what people feel about the project. And I've been just overwhelmed by, well, it's surprising how many people still don't know what the project is. But you give them a second to explain what it is, and just the overwhelming, like, oh, that's going to be really cool. It's going to be like tracks in Salt Lake. That's awesome. It's good to be able to get out in the community and really have an overwhelmingly positive response from people when they learn what it is.
Good point.
I
Yeah,
just, I
really
just want to
positive.
know if you've gotten the ice cream and popsicle people to don't have a meltdown over the RT thing yet.
That's on our radar.
My,
It was. I got to give the credit to Janelle on that. She has a wealth of information on public event.
I think that'd be the great way to start, you know, even your orientation at the colleges or whatever.
Yeah, I can't believe how many people come up to the booth. I mean, it's one right after another, just the whole time you're there.
It doesn't help to have, or it doesn't help that it doesn't hurt that we have the giveaways too. We have candy, we have t-shirts, we have chapstick, sunscreen. We have a lot of swag that we give away at these events too.
It's spreading a lot of awareness. That's good.
Yeah, we reach thousands of people that way, and we've got we're about halfway through those events now, and we'll continue those throughout next summer when we're complete with the project. So just encourage you to let us know if you're hearing anything positive or negative. We like positive news. The crews love to hear that in the weekly meetings. If we got something right, it really helps with their morale to know that we're doing a lot of great things out there too.
Chris, can I ask you another question? The pathway along University Parkway, is that going to be open soon for walkers?
So right now, we're looking at, I believe we got it scheduled for the 21st. There's some fencing that has to go up along the wall. The paving's all done. There's a fall hazard there that I've got to protect. So once the fencing's up, we'll open it up. There's about 10 minutes left if people want to look at the bus. Or if you have any questions.
We did want to leave a few minutes to talk about it, also, unless there's any other questions, let's move on to that, and then we'll be heading out and look at the bus shortly. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is our first time up at bat on vote by mail. You've already done it. We wanted to reserve a few minutes to learn from your experience.
Well, appreciate it. Yeah, two years ago, we went down the vote by mail road for the first time and had a really positive experience with it. So obviously it was our desire to continue on. So I was contacted just to share some thoughts about what we did. I answered some of your questions, but I want to point out that the expert is the word. Is in the room here.
Is she blocking it?
That could have been the case. When we went down this, Kelsey was actually interning with the City of Orem and was a huge part in this. Maybe for sake of time, we won't play the video, but she actually did a step-by-step, which you can look at any time, of how to do vote by mail. But Kelsey was a big part of it. So as you go down that road, you have a great resource on staff who's been down that road before. So a couple things, and of course, Donna Weaver, our city recorder, is here as well. She can speak to more technical parts than I can, but here's what we saw from 2011 to 2015. Obviously, there's an election in between. It was a mayoral race, which has always had higher turnout. So we compared straight city council races from years past, and we saw in the primary a 247% increase in turnout, and in the general, basically 100% increase in turnout. So,
and just an FYI, we traditionally mirror Provo's voter turnout.
Yes.
And what was your turnout?
8% in our primary and 16% in our.
Exactly where we were in 2011.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what we probably would have been in 2015 if we had not done vote by mail.
So in terms of numbers, what was so
that's on. We do have it on a later slide. It's yeah, we'll get to that number.
So, Steve,
yep.
Maybe you're going to cover this, but the amount of fraud that we had.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about some of the concerns that we had heard and how it was addressed as well. We wanted to talk a little bit about, we did this, so we did it as a city during the primary and then the county as during the general. Obviously, there was the local option sales tax, which the county was going to administer, and there's this big issue about them having a separate voting station for the county ballot initiative question, and then us having to do our own vote by mail. And with time, eventually, we agreed to get it on one ballot, and it was run by the county. We are going to go with the county strictly this time, as is Provo. Here's just a couple of those positives and why we appreciate this opportunity to partner with the county. the entities that do voter registration get a steep discount on postage for their permit rate to the tune of
Oh, it's huge.
40,000.
Well, I don't know, but it's huge.
A huge discount in postage, so it'll be significantly cheaper than last year. Obviously, the economies of scale is all envelopes being printed are going to have the same address. It'll just be a mass printing. Sharing of resources with poll workers. The same poll workers are verifying signatures for multiple cities, and then the renting equipment is shared with multiple. So we see a big benefit to going with the county versus doing it
In our
ourselves.
estimates of doing it alone and what the county proposed to us, it was a $40,000 difference.
Yeah.
Still, both of us doing vote by mail. That's the difference.
So somebody had asked the question about, well, what does election day look like for those that want to participate on election day to show their that they're patriotic, their duties. So everybody is mailed a ballot, should have been prepared to vote with that ballot, recognizing that there's some that will have issues with their address or in their mailbox. They may have lost or thrown away their ballot. If they wish to vote in person, they can bring their vote by mail ballot to the recorder's office. Vote, hand it over as if they would. Anybody who lost a ballot will vote provisionally, so it's counted during the canvas, before the canvas period after the election day, to ensure that we don't get a second ballot. We had some people who were elderly and forgot that they had voted already, and then showed up, did a provisional ballot. We can check to make sure they hadn't voted already.
And they had.
And they had. So that's kind of the election day. It does work a little bit different. It's a vote center or a vote service center, so it's really there to be a resource on how the voting works and what they might be able to do, as opposed to come and get into a booth and vote.
So what is the difference that's been noticed as far as how many votes are coming in after a regular election that you go and do a ballot versus doing vote by mail? So is there a lot more ballots coming in?
Every
later?
year, our number of people that chose to be on the permanent absentee voter list they vote absentee anyway by mail increased substantially, like 1,000 people on that list every election cycle. It would increase, so that we kept ours separate for when we did traditional voting as to its own precinct. That was our single most. That was our largest. By far of any of the other ones that we had people who voted. So you already have a lot of people who are voting by mail.
Right. But vote by mail, beyond that, have you noticed a large difference during that canvas period?
Yeah, it is, because we had so many people we would have hundreds of outstanding absentee ballots. And so that was always something that was a big deal. So if you had a close race for a number of years now, because we've had so many people on that permanent absentee list, it would always be in question until the canvas, because you don't know.
Right, and I'm just saying vote by mail, if you've seen that change dramatically or not.
Well, yeah, because you've still got a lot of ballots. I mean, even when we did ours, we had 1,500 ballots that were delivered the day after the election.
They can postmark the day before election,
right.
So.
That's my question.
And so we didn't get them.
And I did notice in one election, previous to vote by mail, that we had one candidate one way and then switch.
Oh, that happened to Steve Sandstrom when he ran that one time. He was the #1 vote getter in the primary, and he was #4 for the general. He lost that election.
And also, this year, the state legislature passed a law that allows cities that do vote by mail to update those voter statistics periodically during that 2-week period. So you don't have to wait from here's election day and now 2 weeks later.
So
you get a whole new.
So the county is going to update it?
Yes, they will be.
And will that be on a daily basis?
When they do counting, that's the county will make that call. But they will have the ability to count some of those and release those figures, and then accumulate some and then release those figures.
I don't think it'll be daily, but they said that they would count them every 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Initially, because they'll have a lot coming in.
Sure. So if somebody does mistakenly vote twice, where they mail the ballot in, they can't remember it, so they come and vote again, that doesn't invalidate the first vote.
No,
It just
they just don't count.
discards
They'll see that they have already voted, so that provisional one will be cast aside. It won't even be
And
open.
if they came forward and said, I changed my mind and I want to vote for somebody
Too bad.
else, it still stays with the first. Yeah.
So to that point, I went down and watched them count the ballots over a couple-day period, and there were ones there that had, and this is on a physical ballot, not one that was mailed in, but one where they had tried to change it.
And they can write instructions, oops, I didn't need to vote for this one, and then they create a duplicate ballot and run that one. They just have to be clear on what instructions they give on the ballot.
Cliff brings up a question regarding the period of time between the end of the election to the canvass. We will still canvass the election.
Yeah, if you have outstanding military ballots, and you always have outstanding military ballots, you cannot canvass before 13 days.
13 days. And then the city does the canvass.
The county will do theirs first, and then will give us the official numbers, and we'll do it that night. They do it like in the late afternoon. And
Okay.
give us the figures.
Okay.
So as in former elections, you'll have an idea of where you're at on the 15th
Oh, yeah.
or the 16th, right?
Yep. Okay. Here's kind of a little cost. Here was our cost. So 2011 total voting. This is primary and general, just under 13,000. We spent $82,000 in the election. Cost $6.37 per vote. 2015, 24,808. Total cost of 164,294, which is slightly higher in a cost per vote. I will mention we spent an additional 12 because it was the first time doing vote by mail. We did 2 additional mailers about how vote by mail is going to work, when they'll get their ballot, how to vote by mail, telling them where to go, which added the cost, but probably something we'll continue to do as it help people get through the process of voting by mail. So this is, of course, with us doing one of the elections ourselves, the primary, and then the general with the county. With both being to the county, that cost will come down, and even with the additional mailers, you'll see a lower cost per vote than we had prior. Is that any questions about the cost of that? Yeah.
What did you add in your information for how it works, how vote by mail works, that it doesn't already come with the regular ballot? I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory, but what did you add in your informational?
Yeah, links for somebody that wanted the video that Kelsey's a part of. But basically just additional, if somebody wants to kind of see it play out, they can go and see this video. Also additional information about where to find information about candidates. We had an election page, so we continue to push people to, one of the benefits that we heard, and you know this, is that people felt more confident in casting their vote because they had the ballot in hand with the ability to now research what with the ballot, as opposed to trying to do the research, showing up to the ballot box, voting, and then potentially there's another question that they didn't even realize was on the ballot. Now they're trying to make an educated decision. So we wanted, with the ballots coming, where to go get information to make your best informed decision. Mayor.
So I don't know how you'd answer this necessarily, but if the ballots go out, is there some kind of information from the city fairly close to that to say, are you aware that there are videos online that you can actually listen to the candidates? I mean, I know you've already sent that out, but I'm just curious if enough people understand that while they're researching, they could just go right there to the candidate videos and listen.
Yeah, so on our information, we point to the website, which has all that information. So yeah, that will go in. We obviously don't time it exactly, but we try to, in the general time that the ballots are going out, here's where to find information about all the candidates.
As you talk with your constituents, one of the best things you can do for them is tell them to check their information on vote.utah.gov. We had issues with people, okay, they will not forward election mail. They will not forward it. So we had one case where one lady wasn't getting her ballot over and over and over again. She didn't get her ballot. Well, we checked it on vote.utah.gov, and 15 years ago, she had a P.O. box. She never updated that information with the county record. It never impacted when she came to vote at her precinct. So they tried to mail it to that P.O. box, and it wasn't hers. They wouldn't forward it, so she didn't get her ballot. So we were able to make arrangements for that. But if she had checked that, she could have seen that her mailing information was wrong. Sometimes the county input does typos. Maybe the address is like 550 north instead of 500 north, where there isn't a 550 north. That ballot is a bad address, so it doesn't go back. She still showed up in her official register when she came to vote, so she didn't realize there was a problem. So people need to take some responsibility and just check. I mean, your 311 center might be a great resource if you've got people who are not tech savvy. Have them call your 311 people and they can look and find out what information they have for them and find out for them.
One other thing, these are the concerns about fraud that had come up. When we initially went forward with the vote by mail idea, there were some candidates and others that were having some serious concerns about it. Concern one was, what about somebody forging my signature? The process includes that, signatures are on file from when voters registered. When they're registered, when they got a driver's license, or they provisionally vote provisionally or absentee. And so every single ballot is checked with the signature and with what we have on record.
And we made contact with people if their signatures didn't match. And and we had a guy who came in, he signed real sloppily, and then he became a draftsman. Well, his signature changed drastically. So we had him come in, he showed ID, he said, yeah, that's me. We had him file a new voter registration form and send it to the county to update his signature.
Yeah. And so we had spouses vote for spouses, and we were able to identify those issues and call the spouse who never voted.
Found out the husband had said, honey, you vote for me.
Yeah. No way. So anyway, so it really is pretty safeguarded as far as the signature goes. People who know who I voted for, the secret ballot issue, the ballots are processed en masse. The envelopes are designed to keep the ballots separate during. You're really just checking signatures, and then you're putting the ballot aside.
They rip them and then tear them.
And you don't know what
That was just my wife who raised that concern, right?
Yeah. And then all poll workers take an oath, which is on this PowerPoint. You can relate it if you'd like. Ballots stolen out of mailbox. If the voters are concerned, they can bring the ballots directly to the post office or drop them off at their city office. They don't have to put it in the mail. Saves the city money if they don't. So people can still hand deliver it to a city office.
But only on the day of?
No, anytime.
Thank you.
Yep. But if it's the day of, you can't put it in the mailbox. You can only drop it off. Ballot being sent to the wrong address.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
So how many do we have that vote that are past the postmark period?
Some of the challenge, and this is another thing you need to make sure of, the post office at 6 o'clock shifts over for their time mark on your thing. So if they go to the post office at 8 o'clock on Monday, it's going to be postmarked on Tuesday, and by law, you cannot count it. So in fact, the county recommended that if it's approaching that 6 o'clock time, don't put it on the mailbox outside the drop-in, carry it inside to the counter and make sure they stamp it with the correct one. Otherwise, save it and drop it off on election day.
Do you know how many of those that we've had that thought they were voting the time period?
Oh, well, I don't know. We have quite a few we have too many that are postmarked on election day.
Like
I don't know if they did, well, maybe more than that. But the point is that you have to stress it. If you can't get it in the mail before election day, make sure you drop it off.
And that is, as we sent out additional mailers, that was bolded, and probably the main thing on almost every one is the dates. Donna spoke to this. Biggest thing is making sure that their information is current on vote.utah.gov. Ballots won't be forwarded. And there is this voter service center. If they don't have it, there is still always a way for people to vote.
But don't stress to them, oh, I'll just go and vote at the vote center. It turned into a nightmare for us for the general election because we had people say, oh, I just don't want to go home. They ended up standing in line for 45 minutes.
Yep.
It's like, it's faster to drive home, pick up your ballot, bring it in, vote it, and just hand it in. And I actually had some neighbors of mine who did that, and they made it very short work. So don't stress that there's a vote center where you can just come and vote. They will be able to vote, but it's really for people who don't have a ballot, lost it, or never got it. So.
Don't want to take any more of your time because I want to make sure any other questions that are outstanding are answered. Anything else that's on your mind, Mayor Curtis?
What percentage voted that night at the location? Do you have an idea?
I don't remember what the exact numbers were. It was too many people who had ballots and didn't feel like going home.
But if I may, I think I would represent too that it was a relatively unique election situation because the national election front was changing on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. And there were many people who were waiting until the very, very end of the process to vote because of the question associated with federal offices. So I don't necessarily anticipate that to be the case this year because there's not a presidential election.
You have to wait until the very last tweet before you can say.
I do think it seems to me that it would be important to note the post office time change. Because I assumed it was at midnight, like you with the IRS filing deadline.
We were surprised when we found out about that ourselves after the fact, so we're trying to make sure that.
Is there ability to put signage in the post offices about it that? Will they hang up additional, if we were to say, if you're here to drop off your ballot,
We
please,
can check.
Please go to the city office in the morning.
please go to city office or come to the counter so we can stamp it for today.
It changed to the IRS deadline as well. So you
I
can't
will
go in there at midnight unless you go to some station if it's all lit.
I will say in short, we had a lot of concerns when this first was rolling out about many of the issues we talked about here. When it was over, we heard very few complaints. There was,
We had so many people who came in and thanked us.
Yeah.
It was the first time they'd ever voted.
yep.
Did you have much in the
32%
way of,
unreal.
did you have much in the way of like, what do they call them? Rejected ballots, destroyed ballots? Anything like that?
I'm not sure what you mean by rejected ballots.
Trying to think of the term you used.
Chads.
What?
Hanging chads.
Hanging chads, no.
Well, you can't clearly define who they voted for or, you know, their signature, their name.
Well, if they forget to sign it, you can't have to have a signature.
Or they voted for 5 instead of 3.
But you
Oh,
don't, if they overcount, there's no way that we can choose for them which of the ones to do, so they don't count.
No, that's what I'm saying, did you have a lot in ballots that you could not use because people had filled them out incorrectly?
Not anymore statistically, because we've done the optical scan ballots for several
That's
elections.
that's the
now, so it
answer.
wasn't any more than usual.
Okay. Anything else before we get on the party bus? Thanks for letting us come down. If you have any questions, of course, John is our best resource, but happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you, that was very informative. Unless there's any objection, we'll declare the meeting adjourned by unanimous consent, and then I think we have the bus to look at. They're all downstairs. They're all downstairs.
Downstairs on 300 West.
Okay.
You can go down